All right. Welcome back to the second day of, I guess, Mr. Fugate's Virtual Learning Academy, or whatever you want to call it. But yesterday we looked at reviewing some multiplying and dividing monomials. We looked at powers of monomials. Today we're going to continue forward with some new stuff. So I think today we're going to end up covering the easiest exponent law as well as the toughest. So the easiest one is exponents of zero, okay? Our rule for zero exponents is any non-zero number to the zero power is equivalent to 1. Algebraically, that means x to the 0 is equal to 1, where x doesn't equal 0. So, let's think about this. Let's say hypothetically, I had z to the 5th over z to the 5th. Now, if you remember from dividing monomials, we know that since we have the same base here, we will subtract. Okay, so I'll get z to the 5 minus 5. That is equal to z to the 0. Now, what we know from years and years of math that we've been doing is that if I take something and divide it by itself, as long as it's not 0, I end up with 1. Okay? So what this is showing me is if I have z to the 5th over z to the 5th, and I use my normal exponent law, and I do 5 minus 5, and I get z to the 0, that stands to reason that z to the 0 has to equal 1. Okay? So that's kind of what we're looking at here. So, you're going to follow that exponent law up with probably the easiest example that we've done in this class so far this year. Simplify 12 to the 0. Well, we know 12 to the 0, or anything to the 0, is 1. So 12 to the 0 is equal to 1. That is our most simplified version. Okay? And that kind of leads us into negative exponents. Okay? This is what I would think is the toughest exponent law to kind of wrap our head around. All right? But essentially what this is saying is that any non-zero number to the negative n power is the multiplicative inverse of its nth power. So if I have x to the negative n, that's equivalent to 1 over x to the n. So if I have x to the negative 5th, okay, that is equivalent to 1 over x to the 5th, okay, just with a regular number instead of an n. That is what we're looking at here, okay? So it's essentially the multiplicative inverse of the nth power, okay? So if we continue on with that, first couple examples, it's just asking us to write things with either a positive or negative exponent. So if I have 6 to the negative 3rd, if I write that with a positive exponent, all I'm doing is I'm writing it as 1 over 6 to the 3rd. Okay? That is now a positive exponent. I've not changed what it is as a value, but I have shown it with a positive exponent. Okay? Example 3 does the opposite. So what we're actually given 1 over c to the 5th. We need to write that using a negative exponent. So 1 over c to the 5th, if we reverse what we just did, that becomes c to the negative 5th. Okay? See how we have a negative exponent. That's what we're wanting. Okay? Example 4, we start to kind of use some of the old strategies and stuff that we were looking at with multiplying and dividing monomials. Okay? Here I have 5 to the 3rd times 5 to the negative 5th. Now, go ahead and solve this. Don't even worry about the negative yet. we have 5 to the third times 5 to the negative fifth. So we're going to take 5 to the 3 plus negative 5. That ends up being 5 to the negative second, which we know is 1 over 5 squared. Or if you want to go ahead and square that 5, we could call it 1 over 25. Okay? I accept either of these answers. Okay? So we have 1 over 5 squared or 1/25. And like I said, as we're going through this, our process for what we've seen hasn't really changed. Took these exponents, added them together, we just so happen to get a negative. Well, if I get a negative, I need to make it positive. So I put it down in the denominator. Okay? So that's example 4. And that leads me to example 5, which is w to the negative 1 over w to the negative 4. Okay? Once again, go ahead, do it how you normally would if it wasn't negative. So here we're dividing, so I subtract my exponents. So I'll take negative 1 minus negative 4. That minus a negative becomes a plus, so I have negative 1 plus 4, which gives me w to the third. Okay? So go ahead, trust what we've done the past couple sections. We're just adding a small little wrinkle. Don't worry too much about negatives if you see it right off the bat. Don't worry so much about zeros if you see it right off the bat. Trust what we've been doing, okay? And just follow the processes, all right? That being said, that's everything. I'll have that assignment that just flashed on the screen there on the actual Canvas announcement. Keep doing good work. If you have any questions, email me. Go ahead, put your earbuds back to the, give those earbuds back to the sub. Make sure you clean them off with the alcohol swabs. Make sure that you wrap them up. Be on your best behavior. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.